Welcome to Haugen Racing, guys. Today we're going to show you guys how to install a clutch in your drift car. We're going to show you guys the race car way to do it. Before you get started though, get your transmission out of your car. We've already done that. If you need help on that, check out other videos on how to remove transmissions and install them. But for this one, we're going to specifically focus on clutch, flywheel, and the rear main seal, as well as the pilot bearing. So let's get into it.
All right, so let's go over some of the stuff that comes with this ACT clutch kit. This is a single disc, and it comes with everything you see here. Now, going over the pieces here, they give you a nice little clutch alignment tool, and this will be specific to whatever the kit is that you buy. This one obviously says Nissan on it, so we're gonna go ahead and set that over here. It comes with a new pilot bushing, and this, I suppose, depends on what your old pilot bushing looks like, what style it is. Either way, we're gonna check that out and probably swap it. It also comes with a nice new throwout bearing. So the throwout bearing that's on this transmission right now is kind of junk, so this is gonna be nice. A little bit of grease. Now this will come in handy when we're checking to make sure that our disc slides on our input shaft nice and smooth, as well as when we put the transmission back in, you're gonna wanna grease the end of that input shaft so that you get a nice fit. Don't overdo it. All right, now going over here, we've got our clutch pressure plate.
I like the yellow too.
Yeah, it's cool. So then it also comes with the single disc here, and they make it really easy for you, and they label which side is the transmission side. So that'll give you an easy way to get it in the right position when you're installing it. It also comes with a flywheel. This is a super nice piece as well.
So this is it's not drift specific necessarily, but this is really the best kit for drifting. So this is a 6-puck, unsprung, single disc kit. It's good for 463 foot-pounds of torque. So anything from 150 to 400 horsepower, this is gonna be perfect. It's not gonna be crazy stiff, but you're gonna be able to get really good clutch kicks out of it. And it's also super affordable. Parts are on hand. So guys, go check out Advanced Clutch if you guys are looking for a new clutch for your drift car or street car. They do it all.
So once you have that old clutch off, this is gonna be a great time to go ahead and swap out that rear main seal. These things are prone to leaking, and it might be a tiny little bit, it might not be leaking at all. But while you're in there, you should go ahead and grab one of these, get it swapped out.
So we'll mention the tools that we're using kind of as we're going along, but it's time to get started. First things first, we gotta get the old clutch out of there and then kind of reverse the process and put it all back in.
So let's get this old clutch out. It looks like a stock clutch. It's not gonna work for us. For this, I basically have an Allen socket, a 3/8 ratchet, and we're just gonna go ahead and take these out one by one, more or less evenly, as it's sprung when you tighten it down. So I kind of jump back and forth from side to side until the pressure is completely off. So upon further inspection, this is clutch. It's a nice piece, but it's not nice enough for what we need. The differences are pretty obvious. This ACT clutch is gonna be a lot more aggressive. This is gonna give a lot better clutch feel, and it's definitely gonna release and snag better on those clutch kicks. This is still not a terrible clutch, but it's more or less a street clutch. So we're gonna be pretty happy with this upgrade. So the next thing we have to do is we've got to get this flywheel off, and that usually is a 12-point socket. So if you don't have any of those, you can find out what size specifically you need and go pick it up individually at an auto parts store. These are usually Loctited in, and if not, they should be. They should be. Let's go ahead and pop these out, pull this flywheel off, and see what's going on behind. All right, so if you don't have an impact, I'm gonna show you how to do this. This is a fairly specialty tool. It's a flywheel holder, and basically this clips in here into the flywheel, and then you can lock it in, allowing you to hold the flywheel still. And then I just got a long 3/8 ratchet, and a 12-point socket, and we should be able to just break these guys loose. There we go. So we'll go around, we'll bust them all loose, and then we should be able to just pull them out normal. I'm cheating. We'll just kind of work that off, nice and easy. There we go. It's pretty used. All right, so the next thing that we have to do is we need to get this old throwout bearing off and press on this new throwout bearing. So we're gonna throw this in the press. If you don't have a press, find a buddy who does. You might be able to put this in a vise and hammer this thing off, but without galling anything or tearing it up, it's gonna be difficult. So find a press, find something about the same size as the shaft here, and we're gonna try and pop that through. So let's get to it. Safety first, guys.
Whoa, what about your boy.com, dude?
I mean, that guy's the man, he'll be fine.
Straight in the eyeball.
So we'll set that guy up in there. Clean this baby up. Do the opposite. So now that we got our new throwout bearing put on here, we're gonna go ahead and re-grease it with some nice, fresh, super high temp Honda grease. I know.
It's the best grease in the game.
I know, it sounds silly. There's kind of a cavity inside here, and this is more or less where it slides on the input shaft. So get that nice and greased up in there.
Give him a little ASMR.
Gross, dude.
We haven't even mentioned it since we've like kind of revamped the whole YouTube, but you guys need to go back and watch our comedy videos. Oh, I just had a horrible nightmare. I'm Henny Haugen now. Matt Haugen's dead. And some of the sensual noises. I was broke. We did ASMR stuff and they're just outrageous. We did all sorts of stuff. Go check us out, but back to serious stuff.
So, we get our shaft nice and cleaned off here. What? Everyone likes to clean shit. Shaft.
Jacked up with Sour Patch Kids and Mountain Dew.
Dude, that's kind of how I live. All right, so we get this nice and clean. What we're gonna do next is we're gonna test fit our clutch disc and make sure that we get nice, clean slides up and down on that shaft. Ooh. So we got a nice glide there. So we got one more place that you need a little fresh grease. We'll clean off our pivot ball here. And this is for our clutch throwout bearing arm. I'm sure there's a very technical name for this thing, but this can be a little tricky. All right, so then you make sure that your clips are all in place. And we get a nice movement on there. Throwout bearing installed. Okay, so before you get too crazy, the next step is gonna be this rear main. We were getting a little bit of leakage here, and as you can see, there's some grossness around back here.
Disgusting!
We're gonna go ahead and change this while we've got this all off.
Yo, watch the camera, dude. It's only like 3 feet tall.
It's like all up in my grill.
This thing's like 2 pounds, and I've been in the gym a lot, but it gets heavy holding it up. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
All right, so we got the cover off. It was quite the nightmare on this car, having to back out studs and do all sorts of silly stuff to get this thing out. But we're gonna get this cleaned up and ready for our new seal to pop right in there. Almost put that whole thing in with my bare hands.
How do you normally do it?
With like one of my bearing press guys. So we'll go around that. Just give it some light little That's nice. I like to give it a little bit of grease back here and on the lip. That way we got a nice first seal as we're putting it on. Grease is good. As you can see, this is gross. We're gonna go ahead and clean this all up and get it ready to put back on. Just use a razor blade, be gentle, and wipe it off real good. And then we're gonna go ahead and use some silicone, and we're just gonna goop this up real nice. We're gonna goop this up down here because this is where it seals on the oil pan. Wiggling it in there might push some of it in or out, so we wanna make sure we have enough. There's this nice little groove that it will kind of fill once it presses in. Oop, see that there? That's a leak right there. Alright.
Guys, I'm giving it my best effort on the filming on this one, so comment below if these cinematics and stuff are pretty sick. I'm pretty pumped on them. Give me some feedback. I don't really know what I'm doing with cars so much, so that's why JMO's doing this whole thing.
Now that you got this guy in, don't make such a mess like I did. But bolt it back up, the opposite of how you took it apart. However yours is put together. This one we have to double nut these lower studs, screw the stud back up into the cover, and then bolt it all up. So now it is time to throw our flywheel on. I definitely suggest that you always run Loctite. When your flywheel bolts back out, they can create a huge mess in there. If even one backs out and it starts hitting the clutch, and it'll just ruin your day. And you've got to pull everything apart, and it can damage the crank. It's just a big mess. So make sure you Loctite those bolts because you don't want those backing out at any point while you're driving. All right, so you're just gonna press that on by hand. Line it up, throw a little Loctite on your bolts. A little bit like that should do just fine. One by one, get them hand tight. All right, now that you've got your flywheel installed, we're gonna use our fancy little flywheel holding tool and get yourself a torque wrench. And we're gonna come in here, and for this application, we're gonna throw everything at 65 foot-pounds. Most flywheels are gonna be in between 60 and 70 foot-pounds. So I like to run right in the middle there. And we're gonna go in an alternating pattern around and get all of these guys torqued up. They should not come out on their own. All right, now that our flywheel is installed, we're gonna go ahead and clean that off. I've just got a little bit of brake cleaner here. Just gonna get a little on this rag, and we'll get all this packaging oil off this surface. Yeah. All right. So this is another surface that's oiled, so we're gonna wanna clean this as well. Don't breathe this stuff, guys. I don't feel like I need to tell you. We're gonna go ahead and toss our plate in here, noting the transmission side, right, is gonna be face down in this position. We'll lift this guy up, and we'll get our alignment tool installed. So this flywheel has 3 dowel pins on it, and there's 3 spots next to the bolt holes here. So we're gonna go ahead and align those. There we go. Okay, so there's only one way that goes. We're just gonna start all our bolts. This is a piece that needs to go on nice and evenly. So what most companies want you to do is bring it down by hand. Don't use any power tools, anything like that. The whole time you're doing this, you wanna make sure that your alignment tool is all the way into your pilot bushing, and that it stays nice and straight. So we'll get all these bolts started, and then we'll start pulling this thing down. We're gonna alternate around until every point of this pressure plate is flush with the pads on the flywheel.
Don't go crazy tight. We'll tell you why in a sec.
All these bolts are now snugged up. Super, super easy, hand tight. You want to feel around, make sure everything is nice and straight. The actual reason that these are specific is because of weight distribution and the way that the clutch was balanced with the flywheel. So you'll notice these holes, these are them taking out weight, almost the opposite of what they do in like a tire shop. So instead of adding weight, they remove it to balance it out. But we're gonna get these torqued up. We're only gonna go to 26 foot-pounds on these. They don't need a lot. All of the pressure from this spring is trying to push this pressure plate off of the flywheel as well. So it's gonna be kind of fighting against that for these bolts to get out. So it's not a lot of torque on these. Let's go ahead and get these torqued up. Hopefully I don't need my flywheel tool. One last thing, very important. Put a little bit of grease right here on this shaft, on the tip, right? Just the tip though, just the tip. And that'll help with getting that tranny back in.
Well, there you have it, guys. That's the good old clutch install. Don't forget to go check out Advanced Clutch for all your clutch needs, whether it's street, strip, track, drifting, any of that good stuff. They'll take care of you. Taking out your transmission, all that stuff. We'll save that for another video. Comment below if you guys would like to see that, and let us know what other DIYs you'd like us to do. Drop them below and let us know. And as always, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and we'll see you guys in a couple days. Peace.
Peace!